Hello there. It's time to have a conversation. I am really excited about the topic today, and we're going to get that started in just a second here. So, let's start with a little story, shall we? When you graduated from college with your music degree, you came out with oodles of knowledge, right? Like tons and tons of music history, all of the things, all kinds of lessons, all kinds of repertoire. Excuse my eyes flitting around as I make sure all the links are going live. You knew a lot of stuff when you came out of school. And then you realized, oh my gosh, I have this whole new set of skills that I need to learn that I didn't know about before. Because it doesn't matter, maybe you got a performance degree, maybe you got a music ed degree, maybe you got some kind of a liberal arts degree. No matter what kind of a degree you got, you're headed down your path, you think you know what you're doing, and then you decide, hey, you know what? I'm going to become an independent music teacher. I'm going to start teaching music lessons. And that is when you realized, I did not learn how to do this in music school. And so today, I wanted to talk about this topic, and this topic was actually submitted by one of the savvy listeners, and I was like, oh, this is genius. Let's have a chat about the things that we should have learned in music school. So I'm really excited and I feel really passionate about this topic. And so today what we're going to do is we're going to rant a little, and then we're going to talk about the things that I hope to see and that I hope you hope to see happening at the university level in the future. Because friends, this stuff's got to change, right? It's got to change. So if you are joining me live or on the replay, please be sure to say hello and let me know where you're tuning in from. I see that there are a bunch of people joining on Instagram. Hey, Karen. Hey, Lexi. Piano Lessons Toronto, MTC Vocal Academy. If you are watching on YouTube or Facebook, give me a wave, say hello, and we're going to have a really fun conversation today. And I hope that you chime in on this. Hey, Brandon Bascom submitted this topic today. So, Brandon, thank you for giving me this idea because we're going to have a really good time. All right. So, before we get into it, let's play a little intro music while I go behind the scenes and check a couple of links. And then we're going to get right to it. Here we go. All right. Welcome to the Wednesday broadcast, y'all. This is going to be a fun one. So I'm going to tell a little bit about my story and, what I learned coming out of school. And then also I'm going to expand that into, asking you all some questions as well. So the topic of the day is things that we should have learned in music school. And before we jump into the topics, let's do some quick housekeeping. If you are new here, hi. My name is Sara Campbell. I am a business strategist, marketing, and mindset coach for independent music teachers and for online education experts just like you. And I go live here every Wednesday where we talk about those topics. And today is going to be a little bit of a rant and rave. But also, I think I want this to be really focused in, what can we do in order to affect change in the universities and to bring the type of education that is really necessary, not just for independent music teachers, but for performers, etc. And how can we start as those people who are making a living as independent music teachers, performers, gigging artists, etc. How can we affect change so that students who are going into school, coming out of school, are more prepared? All right, I got ahead of myself there. We love to have conversations. So if you hear something that's valuable today, or if you want to share a comment, give us a hashtag takeaway. Let us know what was valuable to you. I'm going to be asking a lot of questions today. So if you're watching live, I'd love to bring your answers up on the screen. So please do jump into the conversation. If you're watching on the replay later on, know that I am always coming back to continue the conversation. So act like it's live. Jump in the convo. If you're watching on YouTube, please be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications and all that stuff. Okay, we have set up the Savvy Sara bot. If you are on Facebook, you will be able to trigger the Savvy Sara bot, and she will send you some things. If you drop the word learn down below, she's going to send a recap of what we're talking about today. She's going to invite you to join the email list where you can get a hold of a lot of other stuff. And she's going to give you information about the upcoming Instagram highlights workshop that is happening on February 1st. That will be next Wednesday. So next Wednesday, you won't see a live from me because I will be live on Zoom with teachers where we're going to be learning how to create highlights on Instagram. So if that is something that you are like going, what does that mean? I will explain it later. Okay, so I'd like to preface this topic today. Okay? I want to start by saying, I don't want to dump on the universities. I am not saying that my experience was not good. I want to preface this by saying what we learned was and is valuable, but there are some changes that need to happen. So I'm going to start by sharing a little bit of my story. And please, as I'm sharing my story, I encourage you to share your own as well. And let me know if these are things that you can relate to. So something you might not know about me, actually, my first degree is in vocal performance. So I have a performance degree, a BM, which, come on, it's just so weird to have a BM degree. Anyway, I initially went into that wanting to become a professional singer. And eventually I discovered about myself that that is really not my happy space, right? I'm not somebody who wanted to be auditioning all the time in that high pressure situation. I also discovered I really don't want to live in a city. And so I came out with that performance degree and I had a lot of fantastic knowledge. I learned that I'm a total music history nerd and I love nerding out about music history. After that point, I couldn't get a job. And, everywhere that I applied for a job, even if it was to be a receptionist somewhere, they said I was overqualified because of my college degree. And so I decided to start teaching. It fell into my lap completely by accident. And if you've never heard my full story, I have part of it on the Savvy Music Studio website. You can check that out and look on the About Me and get more information about that. I'm going to skip over that part though. So I discovered down the road that being an independent music teacher was harder than I thought. It wasn't just about teaching. And yes, I did learn some good pedagogy. I did teach lessons in college. That's a whole nother conversation about things that need to, change in music programs. We need to start teaching that classical music is not the only direction. Yikes. At any rate, I learned that, hey, I really don't know about this business stuff. And so I tried to learn it on my own. And you can probably relate to this. And remember at the time, and this is the internet's not even great back then, right? So there weren't tons of blogs that you could go to. There were no Facebook forums. There were no online forums like that. There were no memberships. And so finding out how to run a business, well, for me, it was talking to my parents, it was talking to friends, and it was talking, it was like trying to find, are there any resources out there? And I do remember finding one book. It was like the Voice Studio Handbook or something like that. There was some information in there that was useful, but dang, man, I came out of college going, why didn't they teach us this? Why haven't we had a discussion about this? And it gets me so fired up nowadays that 23 years later, nothing has changed. And there are very, very, very few schools in the United States that have any business training at all for music programs. So here's what I'd like to propose. Here are some things that I'd like to see in programs. So I'd love to know as we start going through these, I invite you to chime in. If you think of something else that you'd like to add to the list, bring it, put it down into the comments and I'll bring it up on the screen here. I love all of the comments that are coming through. So let me bring up a few. Elizabeth, I am grateful for my BME for reasons, I think. Yes, exactly. Julie, I started as an oboe performance major. I never wanted to teach, right? Elizabeth says, history, music, nerds unite. Fabulous. Shannon started with a BM in vocal performance, got an MM in performance, and then had no idea what to do for a job. I feel you on that. Amen. Tegan, yes. And yikes is right. Yep. Karen's like, there was no internet in 1975. Yes. Oh my gosh, Julie. I now have a BMSMS degree, the Bachelor Music Savvy Music Studio degree. That's fantastic. Okay, so continuing on with the story, right? Out of college, wasn't sure quite how to run things, and so I had to learn things as I went. You probably did too. And I made a lot of mistakes along the way. Not going to lie. I'm sure you all can relate to having, made some mistakes in terms of client communication, in terms of figuring out, how to handle money and all of that stuff. So I'm so incredibly grateful for the people who in my life helped me figure that out, especially my mom. Shout out to Barb. She's amazing. Okay, so let's get to it all. I have some things I'd like to talk about. So I did some deep thinking this past week about like what are some of the things that I feel like we could really benefit from bringing this into music programs. And here are the things, I've broken it down into 5 places, right? And I'd love to know more and more about what you think of these and like keep expanding on them. I see a lot of really good stories coming down below. And like shout out to the people who, like me, then went back to school because they didn't know what to do. So I got a master's of music and musicology, which was super useful. I learned a lot of good things. All that to say. Number 1, here's one of the things that I feel like this could be an easy fix. This doesn't even have to be a class, although it could be a class. I really would love to see networking being brought into college degrees, and to think about, because I feel that in many places, not just in university, but like out in the real world, performers, how to say this without sounding like a total ass, performers and musicians and teachers, we are competitive. And I think that competition mindset is bred in the universities. It's bred in high schools. And so rather than this like collaborative networking, hey, we're all in this together kind of thing, we come out feeling very protective of our knowledge and of like our area, right? Networking is so important. And I will tell you what, when I am working one-on-one with clients, that is something that we lean into very heavily, is creating your network. And whether it's like whether you've lived in a place for a really long time or if you've moved into a new area, your network is key. And I think we need to start teaching this early on in degree programs. And I think it could be things that we do. What are those weekly things called where like all the music majors got together? Colloquiums. We used to have colloquiums every week. I feel like you should use that time, use those colloquiums, use those master classes to teach people how to network, to teach people how to connect with other musicians and to recognize that person has a set of skills that is ever so slightly different than yours. They also are a different human being and they know other people. So it is good for us to make friends in the industry, for us to, be open and networking. Yes. Okay. There we go. Like that's exactly, I guess it's kind of called different things in different schools. Like Brandon says masterclass or convocation. Jenna says convo. Yes. Teaching camaraderie, right? Studio class, right? We have this opportunity where we're getting together every single week, and yet we're not using that opportunity to create a network. And I realize that at a lot of colleges, like after everybody graduates, it's like everybody just goes, out into the world, and you probably don't see other people for a while. However, sometimes it's really nice to have that network in an online space, right? So I think that's the first thing that I'm really, really passionate about, is that we need to teach people how to network. Using, Convo, studio class, masterclass, whatever, using opportunities in that space to create stronger networks within our schools, that's going to benefit the school itself, but also teaching them how to network with other professional musicians. So bringing people in, the professional musicians who are open to networking and having them talk about it, going out in, to the community, bringing in the church musicians, bringing in the high school choir directors and having them talk to people about what's the best way to network with them. I think that would be really, really powerful. This is beautiful. Elliot, I feel like you are a power in this space, right? He says, I've done some presentations at universities on building relationships with local music retailers. Students found it very helpful. Yes, this is the exact type of thing that needs to start happening more, right? I've gone into my alma mater, Westminster. They've invited me a couple of times. It's been a while since I've been there, and I've done presentations on running a music studio. I've done presentations on, being able to build a business outside of music ed and etc. Yes, exactly. Karen says, go to musician meet and greets, etc. Beautiful. Okay, so that's point number one. I could talk about that forever. So what I'd love to know, if you're listening in, I would love to know, what are your ideas? How can we bring more networking opportunities to music schools? And how can you find more networking opportunities as an independent music teacher? Right? I'm hoping that this space that we have every week starts to provide that opportunity. That's one of the things I'm really passionate about at Savvy Music Studio, and also at the Speakeasy Cooperative, where I'm a coach, right? We are focused on building cooperative spaces where independent music teachers can come together and talk about business and not feel like they're competing with one another. Beautiful. Brandon, going to MTNA National was crucial for this for me as a student. Perfect. So give me your networking ideas. Let's move on to point number 2. Otherwise, I feel like I'm going to be on this for like an hour and a half. I cannot wait to go back and read all of your comments. I see so many good things. Okay. Number 2, things that we need to learn. And geez, oh man, I feel like this needs to start back in high school. Please bring back the classes that taught people not necessarily how to balance a checkbook, because people aren't writing checks anymore, but that teach people how to create a budget, right? How to create a budget for your home life, how to create a budget for a small business. That can start at the high school level, but I think it also needs to continue at the collegiate level. So thank you, Shannon. She says yes, rising tide lifts all boats. I love it, Deborah. Trying to start them collaborating early. Perfect. So I feel that in this space, I feel like this could be, you could bring in guest speakers to talk about this, sure. But I think something that would even be more useful would be to have a business class. Yes, exactly. Karen just said, small business class, to have a class about running a business. Because and I realize that for some people that are going into music ed degrees and things like that, they think that this is not going to be valuable to them. But let's be honest, most people that become classroom music teachers are also out of necessity, because classroom music teachers are not freaking paid enough. I'm mad. I'm just mad that they are not paid enough, that they need additional jobs. And oftentimes they are teaching privately, or they are, church musicians. Or they're gigging musicians, right? Yes. Erin, it's me. Yes, all these things. Exactly. Yeah. Oh, Brandon, we're going to get to the licensing stuff too. I'm so glad that you put that down there. Yes. Bethany's takeaway is bring back budget financial classes. Yes. My undergrad has a class Business of studio teaching, only place I've ever seen it. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Gina, what is that school? I hope they still are continuing that. I do know of a school in Texas. I can't remember the name of it, but Kristen Yost was teaching, who is amazing. Like, if you don't know who she is, she's an amazing business person. She is teaching a class at the collegiate level for, business 101, essentially for musicians. So we need to talk about how to budget. We need to talk about, like, and starting with that, right? How do you budget? How do you know how much money you're going to need? And how do you know much money you're going to be spending, right? So that's one area, and that's the first place that we start, and then that opens the conversation about how do we price our lessons? Because I can almost guarantee it and I know I can guarantee it because I'm somebody who came out of school and did the same darn thing, right? Coming out of university, I priced my lessons by looking at what other people were charging in the area. And what I didn't realize at the time is that the what people were charging was so out of touch with what you need to live that I fell into that scarcity mindset of, oh, I can't charge more than $15 a half an hour, right? Or I can't enforce like a no makeup policy, or you have to pay when you don't show up kind of policy. So we need to teach people about money, and we need to get real about what what an actual pricing, what pricing would actually support you, not just to like put ramen on your table, but fresh vegetables. Yes. Okay. I see Cassandra says that was home economics way back in the day for high schoolers. Yep. You know what? They've actually gotten rid of most of those classes, so they don't exist anymore. Yes. Worms jump out of the can just a little bit here. So I feel like budgeting and pricing needs to be front and center. And, to do that, I think a business 101 class that is built for musicians would be really, really helpful. But also having real people come in from the outside to talk about what it takes in order to run a business. So that's one. Then I kind of broke this up. Okay, so the next point that I have here ties in with the second point. And I think I did want to see it as something that was separate. So, oh my gosh, I learned to make quilts in my home ec class. Yes, there we go. Cassandra says her takeaway is charge what you need to live on, not just what other people are charging. Yeah, exactly. Like California, dang, it's expensive, right? Caitlin, you are not alone. You are not alone, right? It says 15 years into her career, and she's just now beginning to understand this. I think so many people can relate to that. Okay, so let's move on to the third point, which is going to tie into what we just said about pricing. Here are other things I think we need to be aware of when we're college students. That there are more options than just like let me move this guy over. It's going to drive me bonkers. There are more options than just a pay per lesson model. And I think that this is something that, like, if you are at a university which has a student teaching program, by the way, I'm super grateful for that opportunity because it did like plant the seed that I really am passionate about working one-on-one with people. And that is like one of my strong suits, right? But we learn that is like that is a pay per lesson model. Now, what I'd like to see, take a moment, Sarah, I'm getting all fired up. What I would really like to see is a class that teaches different business models, not just a pay per lesson model where you have to calculate, a monthly fee that changes every month depending on the lesson. We need to teach people what a tuition model looks like. We need to teach people what a subscription model looks like. We need to teach people what is kind of a boutique model. What is a high touch model that is really going to serve like high level clients? And, this idea, a lot of these, this comes from the work that I've done inside of the Speakeasy Cooperative with Michelle Marquette DeVoe. So I do want to mention, like, if you were a voice teacher who is tired of doing the pay per lesson model and you or even if you're not a voice teacher, because we are starting to expand a little bit. And you really feel like your business needs to shift into a model that is going to better serve your clients, we have a class that covers all of those models. Unfortunately, we can't offer it to college students, right? So it's something that it's something that we really need to start educating people on, because those models are so different. And they really help us get away from this starving artist mentality, right? And they help us learn more about how to structure our pricing, how to structure our schedule, and how to build a business that is actually going to serve you as a human being and not just a business owner. A business that is going to allow you to have a life and hobbies and friends, and to get out of this model where you need to teach 80 students a week, because let's be honest, that is not sustainable. And I feel really sad whenever I hear of somebody who's 65, and in order to make ends meet, they are having to teach 80 lessons a week. I see it all the time in forums, and I want this crap to change. I want it to change. Judy, thank you. You're so sweet. Yes. So yes, exactly. Erin, I'm so glad that you said this, like also having different offers, right? There are so many things that we can do other than just doing one-on-one lessons, right? So having this idea, having these ideas presented to us, when we are younger, I feel like could be life-changing for so many people. And I think it would help people who are coming out with a lot of college debt. And they're trying to make ends meet with this like $15 a half an hour crap. Nope, it's done. Okay. Thank you, Barbara. I am all fired up today. Let's move on to the next point, because I have two more, and then I got to recap, and then I got to talk about the thing that's happening next week. So there's a lot to do. I need a drink. I wish this was not just water. Okay, moving on. I should have known that this topic was going to make me feel so fiery. Okay, here we go. So we've talked about networking. We have talked about budgeting and pricing. We have talked about, hey, that there's different models out there. Here's another thing. Oh, wait, that's not right. No, it is. It is. Okay. And this ties into what Brandon said way back. Things you need to be legal eagle. Right? Okay, so I'm, again, circling back to my mom. I'm so grateful for my mom because she taught me these things. I think it would be life-changing for people to understand what you need in order to run a business in a legal sense. So thinking, this brings us into the conversations about insurances. It brings us into the conversation about licensing and about taxes, and learning how to handle our money better so that we are not smacked in the face with a giant tax bill at the end of the year because we haven't been paying quarterlies like we're supposed to. Yeah. Yes, I see that, right? Okay, it's good. And I feel like that's something that we really, really need to start bringing into this. So I think that this particular item, again, could become a part of a business 101 course that is specifically modeled towards music teachers, because, and I realize also that this conversation would kind of shift depending on what state you're in, depending on what county you're in, yada, yada. But being able to tell people, okay, in this area in which our university resides, here are the things that you would need in order to run a business. Oh my God, Michelle's here. Hi, beautiful. I'm ranting. I feel like this is inspired by all the things that you and I do together. Okay, so having lists of here are all the different types of licensing that you need to consider. Here are all the things that you might need to consider in order to really up level your business. And that once you get to a certain point, you shouldn't be running all the things and doing all the things. You need to have access to a CPA. You need to, if you are in a music school, you need to know a lawyer, right? If you were running a multi-teacher studio, all of these things that we need to get in order. And I love, yes, so this is like so good. So Karen says like MTNA has insurance requirements for studio teachers. And I love that MTNA has brought that like into, into their sphere. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people who aren't involved in that. Or if they are, they're just kind of involved on like the outside of it. So they're not aware of these things. So we need to include in that Business 101 class, we're talking about budgeting and pricing. We're talking about business model options. We're talking about things that you need in order to run a legal business. Because goodness forbid that somebody slip on a step as they're heading into your commercial space or into your home teaching space, and you don't have the right insurance to cover that injury, right? Right? Could be an ebook. Could be. That'd be an expensive ebook. And something that you'd have to update a lot. Okay, so Brandon, I hope that adding that into, yes, exactly. Brandon, I hope, finish your thought, Sarah. Brandon, I hope that adding that into the conversation covered what you said earlier in the broadcast today about like we need to know about liability insurance and all those things. And Bethany makes a really good point. She says it is important to know state and county legal things. And that's why I think that that particular topic is such a sticky one. And it's why when people ask me questions about those types of things, I'm like, okay, let's pause for a second. Let's first find out, okay, exactly where you're living. Let's look at your state laws. Let's look at your local laws. And let's actually get you in contact with people who can thoroughly answer those questions, because I am not a lawyer. And I want to make sure that everybody's bases are covered, right? I'm glad to hear that. Oh, yeah. Karen says she spent most of her career in insurance claims, right? Yeah. See, Alexis says, I would, and many others I know would attend an online workshop specifically covering all these topics. Well, I just do have to say that I am a coach in a program that does cover a lot of these topics. So if there are any voice teachers or brave music teachers who want to join us in the Speakeasy Cooperative, we do cover all of this. We have a 10-month program that covers this stuff, and that gives you, if it doesn't 100% cover some of the nitty gritty that would come down to like the state and local level, it points you to the resources where you can find those things. So, yes. Yeah. And it covers so much more, Michelle. I'm so excited for the new cohort to start. We just like a week ago, our H2RA, we call that the How to Run Your Business Without Hating Your Boss Accelerator program just ended. And so the 2023 cohort is going to start in April. And if anybody is interested in that, let me know. Put the word speak easy down below and I'll reach out. Look at what Jessica says here. Like, you need a permit to put a vinyl sign on your door, right? So many of these things. Okay. Yes. Okay, let's keep going. So we have one more thing to talk about. And you know that I had to include this as part of my rants today. We need to teach college students the difference between marketing and advertising, because they are not the same thing. They are related. They're cousins or sisters or something like that. But we need to understand what is it to actually market, and how do we market in a way that brings who we are as humans and who we are as musicians, not just like this idea that we might hold in our head of this is what I need to in order to be a professional business owner, but who you actually are. And how do we bring your, we haven't said this word in a long time because I had to explain it so many times. How do we bring your awesometicity, right? Your awesome self, your authentic self into your marketing so that people are coming to you because you are showing up as yourself, right? We need to teach about marketing. We need to teach about advertising, because that is a whole different conversation, right? We can't start advertising it unless we understand how to market, because if you don't understand how to market, then throwing money at something is not going to work. So I feel like we need to have intense conversations about this, and help young college students learn that, you know what, you don't have to know it all right now. You know, when you come out of college, I don't know if you, if you felt the same way. I felt like I knew a little about a lot, and I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to teach yet. And so I experimented, and I found my way over the how many freaking years, 17, 18 years, 19 years that I've been teaching. And I think we need to teach people that it's okay to grow, and that it's okay to follow what you feel passionate about in your heart, and that you don't need to fit into the mold that we sometimes come out in after we've graduated. And I know that sounds scary because at the collegiate level in many programs, we are still trying to fit people into molds. And I think in order for music programs to continue, because let's be really stinking honest right now, music programs are dying. They are getting cut left and right. They're not getting the funding that they need. And I think it's in part because music programs need to update to the world that we're in. And I feel very passionate that one of the ways we can make that work is that we bring business into music programs, because there are only so many music ed jobs out there in the world. There are only so many performance jobs out there in the world, but there are limitless opportunities because there are so many people in our universe. We're teaching on Mars now, by the way. There are so many people in our world that want to learn how to sing, that want to learn how to play, and that need the healing power of music in their lives. And there are so many opportunities for us. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. All right, we're going to wrap it up. If you have anything else that you would like to contribute to what I've said today, that like these, I would love you to answer the question, right? What are the things that you wish you had learned in music school? And maybe later on down the line, I may turn this into a very long blog post or something like that. So go ahead and put those things in the chat. I do want to take a break from my ranting for a moment. Thank you. I can't wait to come back and look at every single one of these comments that you have left and have deeper conversations with you. Next week, we will not be doing a Facebook Live, a YouTube Live, all that stuff. I know, so sad, right? So on Wednesday next week, this will be February 1st, I will be live, but I will be live inside of a Zoom room because I will be teaching an Instagram highlights workshop. This ties into marketing, right? And it ties into all the things. It ties into, how do you communicate your offers? How do you communicate who you are as a human? I'm going to be showing people how to to choose what highlights would work best for your business. So we're going to be examining that. We are going to look at how you can create engaging copy and engaging graphics that really reflect who you are, and that will resonate with the types of ideal clients that you want to attract. And then I'll teach you all the nitty gritty of how to actually make those highlights work so that when people go to your Instagram profile, they're going to actually click on them, because I know a lot of people are like, do they even click on highlights? I can tell you right now, since we have updated our highlights, we have had a lot more traffic to the things that we've put in those highlights. So we have data that says, yes, it does work, because we are seeing people joining email lists. We are seeing people download freebies. We are seeing people private message us, etc. So it does work. If anybody does want to get into the Instagram highlights workshop, put Instagram down below and I'll send you the information. You can also get that information if you drop the word learn down below. The Savvy Sara bot will reach out to you. She'll give you an opportunity to get on the email list and also send you specific information about the Instagram workshop that's going to be happening next week. Okay, that is all I have to say about that. Let's do a quick recap, shall we? Oh, and by the way, the Instagram workshop, I believe we have just 10 spots left. So I'm excited about that. It's going to be really cool. Anyway, We are doing the thank you, Michelle. She says y'all need to do Sara's workshop. I'm really excited about it. I can't wait. It's going to be so much fun. Okay, so let's do our recap. Who wants to see if I can cram that 40-minute rant into 3 minutes or less? Get your timers out, y'all. This is going to be interesting. Okay, ready? Speed racer. Here we go. Let's have a conversation. When we came out of music school, we knew a lot of things, but we also realized that we didn't know some of the things that are super necessary in order to run a business. So here are 5 things that I would like to see brought to the collegiate level so that college students nowadays are better informed in what they can do as independent music teachers. Thing number 1 is networking is your friend. I want to see more networking opportunities at the local college level so that people can realize that we are in this together and that we are stronger when we network and when we make friends and when we have colleagues. So we need to see more networking opportunities at all the convos and colloquiums and master classes and studio classes and all that kind of stuff. It needs to be built in to the college program. Number 2, we need a business class that teaches budgeting. This should start in high school because we know that they've gotten rid of that in home ec. But we need to teach people how to budget for their home, for a potential business, etc. And that is going to help us inform them about how can you price your services so that you can meet that budget and so that you can create the lifestyle that you want to lead. That is the second thing. The third thing, I would really like to see a class that talks about different studio models, that this pay per lesson model is not the only one out there. And that pay per lesson model, unless it is really built well, it feeds into this scarcity mindset and this starving artist thing that is just toxic and it needs to stop. So we need to be talking about the different models. We need to be talking about tuition and subscription and high touch models and all of these models and these variants of models that we can create in order to create businesses that are sustainable and that work well for our clients. 4, we need to start talking about things that we need in order to have legal businesses. We need to teach students about licensing. We need to teach about insurances and all of the things that need to happen at state, local, and federal levels. And that is going to be a complicated conversation, and we might not be able to teach them everything that they need to know, especially if they move to a different state after they get out of school, but it's a good opportunity to open the door. The 5th thing is that we need to start teaching people to market. And we need to show them that it is okay to show up as yourself and that you don't have to be in a cookie cutter mold, that you can be yourself. We need to teach people that we will grow over time and that down the road, after you're out of college, 10 years out of college, you may be a totally different teacher. And that's okay. It's good to continue growing and to continue learning after we leave. So if you are passionate about this as I am, I'd love to know what you think that you should have learned in music school. Let me know down in the comments below. We're going to wrap it up. If you want to get a hold of the things that we talked about today in our recap, give me the word learn and the Savvy Music Studio bot will reach out to you. And that's all for today, y'all. Thank you so much for being here. I will be back, not next Wednesday, but the Wednesday after that to talk about more of this stuff. So thank you, everyone. And I hope that you all have a beautiful afternoon. So until the next time, stay savvy and stay you, because you are an amazing music teacher who knows lots of things about business and who is curious about things. And there's no one in the world quite like you. And I think you're pretty dang awesome. And we will see you next time.